that too glary, the background, or?
No, it looks fine.
I can see the mint on your pillow.
You could just... Oh my God, you could just fade the background out.
Yeah, well, that's when they built blur, right?
Do you need your puffer? Do you want a puffer?
Councillor Cameron saved me 2 weeks ago with
The puffer?
with the lollies.
Oh.
With,
You can let him, maybe you might need to speak into the microphone so I can know that we're ready.
no, he can hear us.
You can only hear them up through the microphones.
Now it's only these, is it?
Alright,
So-
we're ready when you are.
Sorry, Mayor, we're ready when you are.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thanks, online, that's great. Hello? Hello, yep, we're right. So it's 6:31. I'm just opening the meeting. It's like to say that this meeting's being held on the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders, past and present. We extend that respect to all members of our community. This being, and I'd like to thank all the councillors here, and I'm actually attending tonight's meeting remotely. While Clause 10 of the Council Governance Rules requires me as Mayor to chair all council meetings which I am present, Clause 105 allows for modifications of the rules if it would facilitate a more efficient and effective meeting. With consent of the meeting, I ask the Deputy Mayor take the chair for this meeting. Now I hand the chair to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody. Moving to item 2, all councillors are present.
Oh, is it working now? Sorry. I forgot, it's the red light means on. I was busy working to the green light. Welcome everybody, and thank you for attending. All councillors are present. Do we have any apologies from the staff?
No.
Thank you. Conflict of interest disclosures. Councillors, does anybody have a conflict of interest? Mayor?
No.
Officers?
No.
Thank you. Leave of absence of councillor. We welcome back Councillor Tolhurst, who took a leave of absence from the 28th of December to the 16th of January. Public question time. The public questions status update is that there are no public questions outstanding. This evening's public questions, we have 4. The first public question is from Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. Anne-Marie, would you like to read the question? Is Anne-Marie here? No, that's not her. All right, Anne-Marie's question reads, promoting tourism and economic development in the Borough of Queenscliff is vital for enhancing our community's vitality and prosperity. As a unique coastal destination with its natural beauty and cultural heritage that attracts visitors far and wide, investing in tourism initiatives, jobs can be created and local businesses can be more supported. Given that tourism is a major industry in the Borough of Queenscliff, I would like to inquire whether the council or council tourism/economic development staff plan to submit an application to Tourism Victoria for the Best Small Town Awards in 2026. In 2025, Mount Beauty won Best Small Town Tourism Award. Port Arlington was a finalist, as was Port Fairy. Trentham won the Best Tiny Town Award. Hope this will be given due consideration. I'd like to call on our interim CEO, Michael Tubwell, for a response.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Thanks for the question so much, Anne-Marie, and for highlighting the importance of tourism and economic development to the Borough of Queenscliff. Council recognises that tourism is a significant contributor to our local economy and continues to promote the borough's unique coastal and heritage assets through strategic planning and partnerships. While Council has considered the Tourism Victoria Best Small Town Awards, it has determined it will not be submitting an application for the 2026 program. This decision reflects our current priorities for staff resources and also Council's focus on long-term sustainable tourism initiatives rather than the awards. Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Public question number 2 is from David Kenwood. David, would you like to read? Thanks.
Further to tonight's agenda report, Stage 2 works at the Point Lonsdale Maritime and Defence Precinct and recent vandalism on at least 2 of the P1 buildings, there's an urgent need to determine a future strategy for all 4 P1 buildings. Determining what will happen to these vacant buildings is a critical part of the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Restoration Project. Yet nothing seems to have happened since $750,000 was spent on external improvements some years ago. There is also a suggestion that the power supply may not be restored to the P1 buildings as originally planned under Stage 2 works. Given the Heritage Victoria listing of the 5-hectare site, can Queenscliff Council, as Committee of Management over the site, arrange a roundtable meeting with the Ballerine member Alison Marchant, DECA, RDV officials and other interested parties to map a path forward for these buildings before they are damaged beyond repair?
Thank you, David. And I'd ask the CEO to respond, please.
Thanks for your question, David, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Really appreciate the question and your interest, obviously, in the site there and the broader borough. Council shares the community's concerns regarding the recent vandalism incidents and the broader risks associated with leaving the P1 buildings vacant. These buildings form an important part of a highly significant heritage precinct, as you've outlined, and ensuring their protection and future use is one of our priorities. With respect to the current situation, Council agrees regarding a coordinated approach being the best way to determine a clear pathway for the long-term future of the P1 buildings and in light of the recent events, and will explore options to potentially convene a forum that could bring together all those key decision makers, ultimately to map out a way forward, and ultimately there would then be a council resolution that would come forward on the way forward. I'd also just like to advise that council initiated immediate steps following the vandalism and the smashing of the windows to do repairs, but also to explore security options for it.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah. The great fear, of course, is that they're going to go back to where they were 4 or 5 years ago in a complete state of disrepair. And given the work that's taken place there, and congratulations to council for doing that work, but it's all going to be lost if some sort of decision isn't made on those 4 large buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Public question 3 is from the QCA. The question is, tonight's agenda details the decision to sell Murray Road, which has yielded little financial return to the borough. It would also be evident that a number of consultant reports and officer time should have been accounted for with the sale and in the creation of a development plan, including the allocation of $50,000 to the creation of a Golightly development and engagement plan as contained in the 2023-24 budget. Based on the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council 24th January 2019, Council officers recommended Council establish a new sale, exchange or transfer of land policy, CP 044. Officers provided a briefing to councillors at its 20 December 2018 budget workshop with respect to the proposed new policy for Council to consider and its 24 January 2019 Ordinary Council meeting and noted. It's important to note that any potential proceeds from the sale of land will not be used to prop up existing operational expenditure. Instead, Council would only apply these funds to projects which generate additional revenue streams, investor save projects and matching government grants, and or reduce operating expenditure. Again, this could result from investor save projects as well as the retiring of debt, which would reduce interest expense. Based on tonight's report, it appears the revenue streams from the sale of an historical appreciating asset have been substantially whittled away from substantial legal costs and possibly poor management decisions, including delays in collecting significant sales proceeds and interest proceeds. It appears the intent of CP 044 has also not been followed. Could Council comment on any progress made to have a full and independent investigation into the Murray Road saga and whether revisions to the historical and current budgets will need to be addressed? Before asking Michael Tudball to respond, I'd just like to note that normally we don't answer public questions if it relates to an agenda item, but since this particular question relates to a report from the CEO, we have decided to allow the question. Michael?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and through you. Thanks for the questions, David. I think we've answered many of this much of this in the last council meeting, particularly the full and independent investigation, which we'll touch on again about the Victorian Auditor General role in our financial management. The sale proceeds have not been used for operational purposes. And as shown in Appendix A, the reserve balances to the quarterly financial reports, particularly the year-end reports, the balance of the Murray Road Land Reserve remains unchanged at $3.5 million. So it certainly hasn't been whittled away by any stretch, representing the full sale price of the land. In the absence of alternative identified projects or options, the reserve funds have been invested in long-term deposits, and Council will make ultimate decisions in the future about the use of those funds. These investments have generated additional interest income for Council, which in turn supports one of the objectives specified in Council Policy CPO 44 to invest in projects that generate additional revenue streams. No council policy, including CPO 44, restricts the use of such additional revenue, in this case interest income, for operational purposes. This treatment has been reflected in subsequent council budgets and is further evidenced by the unchanged balance of the Murray Road Land Reserve in the quarterly financial statements. With the exception of transactions incurred in this current financial year, the accounting treatment of all transactions associated with the sale of Murray Road have been audited by the Victorian Auditor General's Office through its annual financial audits, with unmodified audit opinions issued on Council's financial statements.
Thank you,
Thanks, Deputy Mayor.
CEO. Further question?
We do have 50,000 placed in a reserve for the Go Lightly plan, so it has affected the 3.5 million. Just in relation to the, I suppose, the 100,000 extra, it was interest left over. Where's that sitting at the present time? Has that been spent? And also the potential reimbursement. I think councillors may have been told that they might have got legal insurance cover to cover all legal expenses and possible payout. What decisions will be made on a possible $170,000 coming into the budget if the insurance claims are all met?
Thanks, David. That'll be a decision for Council. They will determine what occurs with that. But the interest one, I think I've answered, yeah. Thanks.
So do we know how much insurance we've...
Not at this point, no. Not a figure. We know a percent.
Thank you. Public question 4 is from David Conley. Shall I read it? Is Council presently receiving rate income from Murray Road Cove Development, and should this be also disclosed in the report to Council as part of a full financial reconciliation and have land values risen or fallen in this precinct since the sale? And I'd call on the Manager for Finance and ICT Services to answer, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, David, for your question. This precinct is now privately owned the property. So as a result, council is not in a position to disclose specific related information. However, as with any other property, each parcel of land within this precinct has been valued by the Valuer General Victoria, and council has levied rate based on the values certified by the VGV. These valuations reflect all improvement works that have been carried out within this precinct since the sale.
Thank you, Gihan. Moving to item 6, the confirmation.
Excuse me, Deputy.
Yes, sorry, Carl.
I had a public question in,
Oh.
which I did not get notified that it wasn't allowed. I sent it in on Friday, maybe I was too quick. But
We didn't receive your question.
I got acknowledgement.
I'm not aware of that.
So it's a really short question. Would I be allowed to read it?
Yes.
We may have to take
Please do.
it on notice, so, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
My question is, could the review of heritage places in H07, which is the Hesse Street Commercial Urban Conservation Precinct, by David Helms, Heritage Planning and Management, be added to the monthly ordinary council meeting planning report to monitor progress of the work undertaken?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, through you. I will have to take it on notice. I'll have to confer with Tim, but if that's okay, we'll come back to you in writing with a response.
That's fine.
Yep. And it'll be in the minutes of the next meeting.
Good.
Thank you. And I apologise that
Thank you.
I might have missed it.
Thank you very much. Item 6, confirmation of the minutes of previous meetings. The ordinary council meeting on the 10th of December. A copy of the minutes from that meeting was distributed to councillors under separate cover. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 10th of December 2025 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Do I have a mover for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. The Audit and Risk Committee meeting of the 1st of December 2025. A copy of the agenda and the unconfirmed minutes from the Audit and Risk Committee meeting of the 1st of December 2025 was distributed to councillors under separate cover. A copy of that agenda and unconfirmed minutes is provided here. The recommendation is that the agenda and unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting of 1 December 2025 as distributed be noted. Do I have a mover for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous. Item 7, the record of informal meetings of councillors. The recommendation that I'll move is that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in the adjunct to item 7 be noted. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous. Notice of motion. The notice of motion status update is that there are no notices of motion outstanding. 8.2 is a notice of motion number 2026/602, councillors standing for state or federal elections policy. In accordance with the Borough of Queenscliff governance rules, notice was received by the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the following motion from Councillor Grigar on the 21st of January 2026. Over to you, Mayor.
Sorry, it's just... Sorry, the connection's breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to be very clear at the outset about the notice that this motion does not, and what it does and what it does not do. This motion does not speak about to adopt the policy tonight. It is simply to ask Council to release a draft policy for public consultation so the matter can be considered transparently and with the community input before any final decision is made. At present, the Council does not have a standalone policy that deals specifically with how councillors should manage their roles if they choose to stand for state or federal parliament. While elements of this are touched on in legislation and governance rules, there is no single, clear framework that brings these expectations together in one place. This notice of motion is about good governance, clarity and risk management. The draft policy itself focuses on practical, procedural matters such as notification of candidacy, leave of absence arrangements, the use of council resources, and the transparency during election periods.
Would you like to move the motion before discussing it?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'd like to move this motion.
And do you want to read the motion or?
Yes, if you'd like me to, or actually it might be easier because the...
All right, so do you want me to read it?
Yep, thank you.
That Council notes the draft councillors standing for state or federal elections policy as presented in attachment 8.21. 2, endorses the draft policy for the purpose of public consultation. 3, directs the Chief Executive Officer to undertake a minimum 21-day public consultation period on the draft policy, with submissions invited from the community and relevant stakeholders. 4, requests that a report be presented to Council at the February 2026 Council meeting, summarising feedback received and recommending whether the policy be adopted, amended or otherwise. And 5, notes that final consideration and adoption of the policy will occur following completion of the consultation process. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cameron, would you like to speak? No. Mayor, do you want to continue speaking?
Yes, so referring to the draft policy for public consultation allows the community to understand what is being proposed, why is it proposed, and to provide feedback before Council considers whether the policy should be adopted, amended or not proceed at all. Importantly, this approach ensures that Council does not prejudge the outcome, remains transparent in decision making, and gives councillors the opportunity, confidence that the eventual policy has been properly tested. While this is primarily an internal governance matter, I believe inviting the community input is a sensible and cautious approach. It strengthens public confidence and ensures Council is seen to be acting openly and responsibly. If Council supports this notice of motion, the next step is simply a consultation process followed by a report back to Council at the February meeting. That is where Council will decide, based on feedback, how or whether to proceed. For those reasons, I commend the notice of motion to Council.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Grigar, for bringing this policy to our chamber. I do think it's an important issue and it's particularly important in an election year. I am, however, dismayed that this was presented to councillors with limited time for review and no opportunity for input prior to publication, and it contains no officer input or guidance. In my view, policies shouldn't be written by individual councillors. It's not good governance, and I don't believe you get the best outcomes for communities when this occurs. It's been rushed, and the opportunity to present a policy that's been well researched, matches peak body recommendations and is consistent with the Local Government Act 2020 has been missed. Currently, my read of the document shows an inconsistency with the Act, including the definition of election period, and there is an opportunity to clarify whether both components of the definition of prospective candidate must apply or whether it is an either-or. Setting up council to make recommendations on councillors' allowance is also inconsistent with the Act's clear message that this decision rests with individuals, and per the policy's intention for councillors and the public, these matters need clarifying. I do look forward to reviewing the feedback. I think that's an important safety net we've got, that if adopted tonight, it would have a period of consultation in which review and change can occur. But I do want to work with councillors and the organisation to refine this policy and hopefully adopt one that's in better shape than this. But in its current state, with many questions unanswered and no opportunity to input, I will not support it.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Does anybody wish to speak for the motion?
I'll take my right and apply.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've sat as a governance officer, a portfolio, and I see that, the will of, the previous, many times that nobody actually really wants to take on governance policies, especially our own governance rules. It shows clearly the last time we actually proposed our governance rules that we had virtually a handful of respondents. It comes down to we have to get ahead of the ball on these issues, and that's why I've put forward this council motion and then gives the time for other councillors to have a look in the next 21 days to go and review it and then to make the decision in the February meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further debate? All right. All those for the motion?
Thank you.
Against? All those for the motion? Against? The motion is passed. Thank you.
Can I call for a division, please?
All those for again? Councillors Grigau, Cameron and Monaghan. Against? Councillors Rule and Tolhurst. All right, item 9, petitions and joint letters. In accordance with the Borough of Queenscliff governance rules, a petition or joint letter presented to the council must lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting of the council, and no motion other than to receive the petition or joint letter may be accepted by the chairperson unless the council agrees to deal with it earlier. None have been received. Item 10, functions attended. The functions are listed. I move that the functions attended report to be received. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour?
Sorry, Matt, point of order, there was one small amendment.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
There was one small amendment for the Geelong Regional Library Corporation.
Oh, of mine? Okay, yes, I didn't know if you wanted to add that. All right, so I can't remember the date now, 15th of January?
Yep.
All right, 15th of January, I attended the Geelong Regional Library Corporation extraordinary meeting. Thank you. So with that amendment, I move that motion. Seconded, Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Item 11 is the Chief Executive Officer report for January 2026. We'll take the report as read. Before looking at the recommendation, does anybody have any questions relating to the report? Yep, Councillor Tolhurst.
It's a question that pertains to information, but not specifically about the accuracy or therein, but that's around the open space contribution. We've talked about this a little bit, and I just wonder if there's sort of an official position as to whether that can be awarded or used by a council to give to community groups to work on projects that achieve that outcome of delivering open space projects, or its administration, really.
I don't think council has made a decision. So currently we have kept that open space contribution in a reserve account. So I think council can make a decision. As I understand, that needs to be used for an infrastructure project within the vicinity of that development. But I don't think there's really a legal or legislative requirement. Right? So
Excuse me, I have to take that on notice. I think I'd like to check what the guidelines are around all the regulations are around use of that.
All right,
Maybe
just for the recording,
yeah.
it's been suggested that that question will be taken on notice to check all the guidelines surrounding that.
Yep. We will have a policy, so just for the community and for Councillor Grigo, we will have a policy that determines it. It can't be spent anywhere else outside that policy. It will go into a reserve, but we'll just check all the details in our policy and everything on where it's to go. But Council can ultimately decide.
Thank you. Were there any further questions regarding the report? The recommendation is the Council receives the Chief Executive Officer report for January 2026. I move it. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Item 12, building the borough. The recommendation is that the planning permit activity report be received. I move that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. All those in favour? Sorry, yes.
I think, Tim, it'll be directed to you, but through you, Deputy Mayor, just the impact, referring to application PA 202556, 43 Point Lonsdale Road, refers to it being in a transport zone, transport zone 2, and I wonder if you can, at a high level, talk about what that means for an applicant specifically, and if it has any intersection with the objections at this point in time.
Through you, Chair, I need to take that on notice in terms of the specifics of the Transport Zone 2. Just to update you, though, there are now 4 objections for that planning application, and Council received a briefing in February on that. I'll get back to you on the specifics of Transport Zone 2.
So we will receive a brief in February, Tim, did you say?
Yes, that's been scheduled for... There's now 4 objections. That's been scheduled, I think it's the 11th of February.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? So I move the motion as outlined. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Moving to item 12.2, the planning application at 18 the Esplanade, Queenscliff. Before moving on to the recommendation, I wondered if we could have a report from Tim Crawford regarding this application.
Thank you, Chair. And in relation to planning application PA 2024-054, the key issues before Council tonight is need to form a view, not make a formal decision, to present to VCAT. And the recommendation from the senior planner is that not to support the application for reasons set out on page 21 of the agenda. In terms of the history of why this matter is now before VCAT, the permit application sought deferral of the October 2025 planning review meeting to review the McGowan case, and then lodged the failure to determine this. The 60 days for the failure to determine the appeal was from the amended plans lodged in September 2025. The McGowan case raised issue whether the proposal complies with the neighbourhood residential zone, and the crux of the relevance of that case is set out on page 24 of the agenda. And I'll just briefly read the bullet point where it says, as the attic was not recognised as a storey, then the existing dwelling was a two-storey building, and therefore the addition of the additional storey above 2 storeys was prohibited under clause 32.09-11 of the neighbourhood residential zone. In terms of the VCAT process going forward, the VCAT process allows for all parties to present to the tribunal as a final decision maker, and council is one contributor to that process along with the applicant and the objectors. There were 10 objectors to this planning application. In terms of the VCAT process and timelines, objectors will be invited to confirm if they want to take part in the VCAT process. Objectors will need to lodge a statement of grounds with VCAT by the 24th of March 2026. The compulsory conference is scheduled for the 22nd of April. It may be moved to the week of the 27th of April, and a full hearing is on the 7th and 8th of July 2026.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the officer?
Yes,
Councillor Tolhurst.
Will those details around the VCAT hearings, likely or potential rescheduled dates, will appear in a subsequent planning report?
Well, the only potential change is the compulsory conference, which may be moved to the week of the 27th of April.
Great.
But the hearing
locked
date
in.
is confirmed for the 7th and 8th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Grigor?
We're saying if, on the chance that we vote tonight that we do not support, we support the officer's recommendations and to join the other complainants, the other residents of complainants, so what support would we be giving them as a joint sort of argument to VCAT?
Well, I guess, Mayor, based on what Council's view tonight is, our support is going to, I guess our position at VCAT is probably likely going to align with the objectors' views as well, in terms of we'll have legal representation at VCAT, but I can't prejudge what the councils are going to decide in terms of recommendation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The recommendation in front of us is that council, had it been able to make a decision on the application under the provisions of clause 43.02 for alterations and additions to an existing dwelling in respect of the land known and described as 18 the Esplanade Queenscliff, in the absence of the current application to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal under section 79 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, it would not support the proposal based on the following grounds. The proposal is prohibited as it is contrary to the mandatory controls related to stories at clause 32.09-11 of the neighbourhood residential zone. And 2, in the event the proposal is found to not be prohibited, the proposal is considered inconsistent with the design objectives of the Design and Development Overlay Schedule 3, given the proposal adds significant building volume to the upper level of the building, creating a building scale that will be a significant visual element in the streetscape and from the foreshore walking paths, and the design criteria clause 15.01-5L-04 of the Queenscliff Planning Scheme. Do I have a mover for the motion, or for that recommendation as a motion? Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grigor. Do either of you wish to speak?
Just briefly to say, Thank you for the recommendation, and to Bryden and the team, the analysis has been thorough. This application has been with us for a while and a site of public interest, as you said, Tim, receiving 10 or more objections. And it is, in my view, one of these often challenging thin edge of the wedge planning examples, but the design and development overlay DD03 is really clear in its intent, and this position, I think, seeks to defend that, drawing on the McGorran case as a useful precedent, although we know that is a bit of a moot term in planning, but in assessing an application such as this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Grigal?
Yes, regarding 18 Esplanade, Queenscliff, this item is not about deciding on the planning permit tonight. It's about confirming the council's position to VCAT following a failure to determination appeal. The subject land is within the neighbourhood residential zone Schedule 1 and the design development overlay Schedule 3. Both include mandatory controls limiting builds to 2 stories, and these controls apply regardless of whether a permit is otherwise triggered. Since this original application was lodged, the VCAT, as we've been told about the McGorran decision, which is directly relevant, we were quite sort of hesitant of our decision without that, I think, case. But that decision confirmed that the modest attic within the roof space does not constitute an existing story. Applying that reasoning here, that existing dwelling is properly characterised as 2 stories, meaning the addition of a further story is prohibited under the zone. Officers have also assessed the proposal on its merits in the alternative. Even if it were not considered prohibited, the proposal introduces a more dominant and visually apparent 3rd story in a sensitive foreshore location. Officers are satisfied it does not meet the design objectives in the overlay or local policy, particularly in terms of bulk, scale and coastal character. Council has responsibility to apply its planning scheme consistently and to defend its mandatory controls. Departing from these controls in this case would undermine the framework we rely for future decisions. For these reasons, I support the officer's recommendation that Council form the view that it does not support the proposal and advocate that position to VCAT. Our role here at Council is to defend our planning, so I think we must support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? I'll take the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
Did the planning meeting get called off by the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was deferred by the applicant.
Thank you. That should be probably in the report.
Thank you. Item 12.3 is the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Grant Variations Request. The recommendation is that Council endorses the proposed changes to the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Stage 2 development project scope, including the addition of a viewing deck and access stairs as supported by the project control group. B, requests officers to submit a formal variation request to DECA to update the project scope outlined in the current grant agreement. And C, approves the submission of an extension of time request to DECA to revise the project milestones and deliverable dates in line with the updated scope. Does anybody wish to move that recommendation as a motion?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Pardon me, before
Thank
we
you.
proceed.
Yep, good idea.
And that is around, again, probably too...
Point of order, sorry, we've just lost Councillor Grigal, so I'm not sure if you want to adjourn the meeting to get you back or just carry on.
With great respect to him, you don't need him for a quorum, so we can continue and hopefully he can dial back in again.
Does he can just dial himself?
Yep, just click on the link. Yep.
All right, councillors? Carry on. All right, sorry, keep going, Councillor Tolhurst.
Thank you. That's around any indication from DECA, the funding body, around comfort with another grant variation, or any, I guess, discussion that's emerged from the PCG additional to the recommendation and the briefing that might inform a decision here?
So an email was sent to DECA after the last PCG just to flag that this might be a request from council. The initial indications is that they would be supportive of the milestones, the changes to the milestones that were put forward. There just may need to be some changes to the financial payments so that they fall within this financial year.
Any further questions? All right, is Councillor Griggar back on?
Yes, sorry, yeah, back.
Okay.
Sorry, I popped out.
All right, so just, oh, now we're all out. Just, did I have a proposer for the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Did I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Monahan. Do either of you wish to speak? Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? I would just like to say that it's against the motion. It's concerning that we do have to keep going backwards and forwards and eking this grant out, or in fact frittering it away, it would appear. I hope that we have now reached a point where we can move on with the project. I'm just not sure about the... Is my speaker playing up to everyone? Because it is to me, the feedback. I'm just not sure about the extension of time, but Councillor Tolhurst did get that clarified. So just concerned about the continuing toing and froing with it and the frittering of the money. Anybody else wish to speak? All those in favour of the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous. Item 13, the proposed urban design function in the borough, which involves the committee, the Urban Design and Public Realm Assets Advisory Group, have made a proposal for a function that would be held within the borough. We have 4 options outlined in the paper, and councillors are invited to consider one of those 4, or of course something else. Does anybody have a motion they wish to move? Councillor Monahan?
I'd like to move a motion that council supports option 3. Council supports a town hall publicly open panel with questions and answer event.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst, Councillor Cameron, Ty. Does anybody wish to speak against that motion?
May I speak for the motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Brent, assuming Councillor Monahan. Thank you. I really love the idea and thank the group for making this recommendation about a Heritage Information Centre as a tool to engage the community and expand the advisory group's knowledge on contemporary urban design. I am also pleased that the motion Councillor Monahan has put forward is one to support a free event, an open event, as I'm not comfortable being the financial underwriter of the event as described in the brief, and again with so little detail presented about what it would do, what speakers it would entail. The briefing currently doesn't bear a recommendation from the committee other than to host the event with a ticket price, and it's not clearly linked to the group's role in supporting the link between what the event can achieve in supporting the advisory group to develop recommendations on an urban design and public realm asset framework is not clear. And I think there needs to be a real process to having these recommendations brought to for council to consider. But I think what Councillor Monaghan has presented in that council has a really legitimate role to support public and open events, ones that are free, accessible and more consistent with our community engagement principles. An event of this style can enhance the knowledge of design language, history and the role of urban design in carrying a community story, both past and future, to be hosted in the borough. So alongside an engagement plan and a visible progress map from the group as to how it's progressing against its stated duties in the terms of reference, I do support the motion and look forward to seeing how this can progress.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Item 14, running the borough. We were going to consider a revised revised policy, council policy CP017. We are holding a workshop later next month with regard to considering risk appetite, etc., for council and for councillors to take part in it. So it has been decided that we will postpone this particular review until after that workshop. Could I have a motion to defer this item, please? Yeah, Councillor Tolhurst.
Yeah, I move that council defer the consideration of this item until after its workshop on risk appetite and management framework.
Thank you, and I'd second it. All those in favour? Thank you, unanimous. Item 14.2 is hard waste service. Didn't we just do that? That was the policy. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. 14.2, hard waste service. We have 3 options outlined with regard to the hard waste service that the Borough of Queenscliff would like to offer to the community. I'm wondering, does anybody have a motion from one of those options or a fourth option that they might like to move as the motion?
I'll go. I'm genuinely torn on this, but I will move the motion that we go with option 1. Council resolves to continue the delivery of the annual curbside hard waste service with implementation of key additional mitigation measures, including enhanced monitoring and enforcement, expanded community education campaigns, rapid response procedures for hazardous items, operational controls to manage illegal dumping to reduce the identified risks within council's acceptable thresholds.
Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. Does...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and B, sorry.
Notes the additional key mitigation measures will require additional funding of up to $14,000, which is to be considered when setting the residential waste charge in future budgets.
Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Do either of you wish to speak to this motion?
Other to just reinforce what I said about that I'm genuinely torn on it, but and we're probably just kicking the can down the road, but yeah, that's the recommendation I'm going with.
Councillor Cameron, do you wish to speak or reserve your right? Or
I think the borough has always had a hard waste collection. It enables people to do a clean out annually, to take a trailer load to the tip is over $200. Our median age is 64. And yes, as Councillor Monaghan has said, we are kicking the can down the road. There might be a time where things have to change, but I think at the moment it's not the time to do it.
Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? All right, all those in favour of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 15, questions without notice. There are no questions without notice outstanding. Are there any questions without notice that councillors would like to propose? Thank you. There is a list of council meetings. Planning review meeting the 11th of February at 6:30 if required, and the ordinary meeting of council on Wednesday the 25th of February at 6:30 p.m. here in the hub. Item 17 is the closed session of meeting at... Sorry, I don't have that. At 7:26, I move the motion that in accordance with sections 66(1) and 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential items: Memorial Plaque and Plaques Application 2025 and the CEO Draft Employment Contract. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Monaghan. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.